Hello, I'm G.E. Smith. I'm here to talk about the Fender Telecaster guitar. When I was about 11 years old, I was lucky enough to get a Telecaster. And it has absolutely shaped my life, the person I am now, and everything I've done since then. I rode that Tele all over the world. And Fender's been nice enough in the last year or so to come out with a G.E. Smith signature Telecaster. And this is what I'm playing here today. I always found that the sound of this Telecaster guitar, to me, was the most useful sound. I've tried every kind of guitar, I think, that they made, anybody made. And always came back to a Telecaster, and now that's pretty much all I ever play. Over the years, I've gotten really lucky and gotten to play with a lot of different people in a lot of different situations, whether it was a sort of a popular music kind of thing. I worked with Daryl Hall and John Oates for 6 years in the 80s, and did a lot of work with Telecaster on their records and live as well. Played with, on Mick Jagger's 2 solo albums, a lot of Telecaster on there, both for me and Jeff Beck. And Bob Dylan, 4 years with him, nothing but Telecaster. Just, you know, some people say that a Telecaster will only do that kind of clean country sound. Man, I found that you can make it real fat. And that's what I was trying to do with this guitar here. I was on the Saturday Night Live television show for 10 years. Played a Telecaster all the time. There wasn't a show there that I didn't have a Tele with me. And that show required me to do every kind of music that you can think of. I mean, other than heavy opera, I think we did everything else. Classical music, Al Green, Eddie Van Halen, anything that happened, I played my Tele. And it always worked for me. Just recently, just in the last couple days, I heard a fellow playing jazz on a Telecaster. You know, playing beautiful, beautiful music. And it just once again pointed up to me the versatility of this great guitar. So when I was a young kid, you know, I don't know, I might have been 13, no more than early 14. There used to be a TV show on called Shindig, and they had a thing from some clips of bands from England, and one of them was the Yardbirds with Jeff Beck, and he was playing that Black Pickard Esquire. And I went crazy because it looked like my guitar, you know, and I went, this guy is so cool, and the sounds, he was getting those like a train's going by, and you know, the world is exploding sound, you know, and he's slamming his guitar into his AC-30. It was just so cool. Made me, you know, crazy. Yeah, I just had to be part of that thing. So then, right away, me and my buddies in Pennsylvania that I was growing up with, we got into looking for old guitars and finding out, you know, how these things came to be. That first Tele I got was an old one. I was lucky. It got me into this kind of fanatical vintage world that you can read about and hear about. And I think you see behind me there's some vintage gear back there, all Fender. I've always played through Fender amps too, nothing but, for me. That's the sound. When I was 15, I went to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and got a Fender Bassman, 2-piece Bassman. And as I was loading it in the car, I bought it from a guy out of the paper, an accordion player. As I was loading it in the car, he came out with the reverb unit and said, I think this goes with it too. Lucky for me. So now I always had reverb since then. I love that reverb. It's just fun. Back in 1948, when the Fender company was just getting off the ground, Mr. Fender was making these lap steels. This is from 48. This is number 22. See that pickup? Look familiar? It's your Telecaster pickup. A couple years later, that would be in the Tele. Now, I got no evidence for this. I couldn't prove it in a court of law. But I think that one night, back in 48, Mr. Fender was looking at this pickup, and he grew it into this. So then a couple years ago, when I got this opportunity to design a G.E. Smith Tele with the Fender company, I kind of took this, went back to it, mounted the pickup right into the wood. On mine, that's really the big feature of it. But I also used these inlays. So I didn't think of too much on mine. You know, it all came from Leo Fender, but it's a kind of a back to the beginning with modern workmanship and stuff. And for me, this is almost heresy to say this, but I truly believe it. I think right now, and in the last 10 years or so, Fender's making some of the best guitars they ever made, including anything from the beginning. And from a vintage freak like me, that's a serious statement. All right, so back in my misspent youth, I'm out traveling around the country with rock and roll bands, and used to be able to buy this kind of stuff for 25 bucks, 50 bucks, all over the country. So I just started buying everything I saw. You know, you'd be out on the road, nothing to do during the day, you'd walk around, you'd hit the pawn shops in Sioux Falls and find one of these. And I found the ones that had these Telecaster pickups in them because I played Telecasters, and I thought that was all very cool and interesting. And I noticed that when I got the real early ones, this pickup mounted right into the wood of the body sounded fantastic. Sounded really fat. And I was always trying to get fatter and fatter sounds out of any guitar I played. But since I've mostly played a Telecaster, I was trying to get fat sounds out of a Tele, along with everything it's well known for. So at some point, me and my buddies took a couple of these bridges and cut them off, screwed the pickup down into the guitar, and we found that if you kept the pickup up pretty close to the strings while it was connected to the wood, it got that fat thing going, and you can really crank it up. It's just a wonderful sound. See, it's the same pickup. So I'd go to a pawn shop, I'd get one of these lap steels, one of these old Fender lap steels, because of the pickup, and it had the Tele knobs and stuff, and you know, it had a lot of cool parts on it. Then I started playing them a little bit, and I went, wait a minute. So it's really fun to play these things, but the sound and the sustain and the brilliance of it was something that I wanted to go after. So that's what I tried to build into this G.E. Smith Fender Telecaster guitar. So in I guess about 1965, this record came out, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, their first album. And on the back of the record is a picture of this guy, Mike Bloomfield, with a Telecaster. He's all hunched over and he's just eating it alive, you know? And then you listen to the record and it's ridiculous. It's just, if you haven't heard that record, go find it. Go find a CD, get on iTunes, get somewhere, find it. The Paul Butterfield Blues Band, first album. It is the Telecaster manual of life. Just amazing. Made me crazy, obviously, that record. He's got one solo on there. They do Elmore James's Shake Your Moneymaker. And me and my friends have argued for years about is he playing slide or doing it with his fingers, but he's obviously in a tuning and he does this. And it was actually, that was in D. He actually did it in E, with just a smoke and Tele sound and like. Made me crazy. Now, also something that I've gotten into in the last couple of years, very heavily, is the funk players and the R&B players. that used Telecasters. I got to play with Al Green a few times when I was on Saturday Night Live, and I don't even remember what song we were doing, but it had some of that like stuff in it. And I was playing it, and he looked at the guitar, and he went, "I haven't heard that sound in 25 years." It made me feel so good when Al Green said that to me. It was one of the high moments of my life. Also, I've been listening to a lot of James Brown and Kool and the Gang, and that's, you know, that kind of... that stuff. You can't beat a Tele for that stuff. Ain't much you can beat a Tele for in my book. Another fantastic Telecaster player that has influenced several generations of guys, whether they know it or not, is James Burton. And he first started playing a Tele, I've read, when he was 13, and he was playing on the Louisiana Hayride, 13, 14, 15 years old. He played on a record back in the 50s called Susie Q, by a guy named Dale Hawkins. It had that... I always thought that James might have been listening to Hubert Sumlin that morning at breakfast before he came to work, cut that lick. But it's a great one. Okay, so far I've pretty much talked about playing lead lines on a Telecaster, but it's the ultimate rhythm guitar. Back when I was playing with Bob Dylan, one of the problems that I had to solve every night was how to start like a Rolling Stone, because it was usually the way we ended the show. Big song. And I came up with this, which to me is just a, you know, prototype Tele line. And even though that's not anything that was on the record, people knew what it was when I started to play that, and the sound of that Telecaster in those big places. We played a lot of open, you know, outside places. Just amazing, man. It made me smile. Still makes me smile. But you can play chords, fat, beautiful, warm. All right, so let me talk a little bit how this thing works, you know. 2 pickups. With the switch, you get the lead pickup, both pickups, or the rhythm pickup. It's a beautiful scheme, huh? It'll give you any kind of range of sound that you want. And with the amplifiers that they're making today, you can get it as distorted and as crazy and as loud as you want to be. I'm not going to do that right now. But you can do that, and it won't whistle, it won't feed back, it'll just feed back in a good way. I've just always found a Telecaster to be the most versatile thing in the world for me. Very personalized kind of a deal. When you play a Telecaster, your personality comes out of the guitar, more so to me than in any electric guitar I've ever heard. Mike Eldred from Fender came over to my house one day, a couple years back, and he brought all his digital micrometers and measuring sticks and his Emily Dickinson ruler, and we measured all the necks and sort of took a reading on my 2 favorite necks and made this neck feel like a combination of those 2. I've always liked a neck that's sort of the same width, front to back, at the 1st fret as it is at the 12th fret. I don't like those ones that are real skinny down here and then get fat up here. Give me fat all the way, you know? It's not crazy fat, it's real comfortable, and as I've given the guitar to a lot of friends and had talked to people that have bought them, both men and women, they really like it. It's a very comfortable neck. And I'm glad about that, because I, wouldn't want to make something that people didn't like. Another thing that you'll find on the G.E. Smith Tele, with the cutoff bridge plate, although the three bridge pieces are the same, they're the brass saddles like the original Telecasters. For some reason, and I don't really know, the Albert Einstein physics to all this, but it seems to make the strings, to me, a little more slinky, a little easier to play. So, you could almost use a little heavier string and really wang on it and get all the power that you want out of it, and it's still easy to play. Also, it gives you a lot more room if you use your fingers or a pick to go up and down on the strings and really dig into different spots. And so there's just a million different tones all up and down the neck. All right, well, to demonstrate a little bit some of the things that you can do, and of course, you is the operative word there. You can do anything you want to do with these guitars. That's the great thing about them. Right now I'm playing through one of these, which is a Fender Champ amp. I think it's like a 3 or 4 watt amp or something, but it gets a nice fat sound. Just ease this one down. I've always heard that Eric Clapton recorded most of Layla playing through a Champ. I used to play a lot of stuff like that on Saturday Night Live. They'd come and they'd say, we need 10 seconds in a minute and a half. And so I'd go to the guys, okay, we're going to play an A, okay? And I'd just kick it off, and Sean would hit the drum, and there we'd go. One of the great Telecaster players, of course, was Roy Buchanan, and him and Danny Gatton both would do the volume swell stuff, and Jeff Beck, early Jeff Beck. And even now, if you go see Jeff live, he'll get out to Tele for a song or two. I don't really use any pedals or anything. I use reverb. That's about it. But there's so many cool pedals and stuff that you can get today, and you combine a guitar like this and a few of these little tricks with some pedals, and you can really get some stuff going. All right, so the G.E. Smith Fender Telecaster is available in red, as you see, and they were real good about the red. We worked on it for a long time, and I finally said it's got to be the color of my mother's lipstick when I was a little kid, and they just did it. They got it. So I'm real happy about that. Then there's a traditional sort of, blonde, whitish sort of one with a black pick guard, and if we lean on them, you and me together, we'll get them to make some black ones. Go get yourself a Telecaster. A G.E. Smith Telecaster. Fender Telecaster.